Where did we get that idea that the gods in traditional religions are evil spirits?
If colonization didn't happen, we would still be people who majorly will be into our own, ancestral spirituality and ancestral worship. So now, when the colonialists, when they came in, if you noticed, for example, the Europeans, they came in with missionaries, with school curriculum and missionaries. So what they did was to, you know, replace your ancestral knowledge, ancestral thoughts, your ancestral wisdom, which is largely your religion, because
Your
your religion,
identity.
your identity, because your religion is and your culture is like, it's like 5 and 6. They go, they go hand to hand, because what your ancestral spirituality is more or less saying is your ancestral wisdom, the way your ancestors handles things, the way your ancestors, did things and then pray. So what when the colonialists came, they needed to replace that with something else. So what that did was that it separated us from our ancestral thoughts, our ancestral wisdom, and the way our ancestors used to do things. Because from the religion, from one of the callers said, I mean, you're idol worshippers. You can't stand side by side. One have to give for one, and of course, it's the one they brought. So those were so we became Christians. So what I did was, like I said, to detach us from our ancestral, knowledge. So that's why you have generations of Africans or generations of Nigerians who practically don't know anything about their ancestors. And one of the miseducation that caused was saying we were idol worshippers. Now let's analyze it. I mean, I've listened to you on this show talk about. I mentioned one Igbo proverb that says, if the gods misbehave, you show them the tree they were carved from.
That's right.
So the Yorubas have similar proverb that says.
Really?
Yeah, they have similar proverb. It says, I'll say it in Yoruba, then I'll translate it.
Okay.
So it says, Akinge ginigbo ko di olowo eni. Àwòrán ère kò lè ní ìtò ẹni tó gbìn. Now this is in Ifa. Now what that means is that Akinge ginigbo ko di olowo eni. Now you don't cut a log of wood from the tree, and then that tree lords over you. That log.
Ooh, I like that.
Lords over you.
Ah, I
and
like
then
that.
àwòrán ère ò lè ní ìtò ẹni tó gbìn. Like a sculpture, whatever it is you place somewhere, cannot have ease, like trying to translate E. Now you like cannot have some sort of reverence over you, cannot have any kind of authority
Now
over
you
you.
create them.
Now
So now
create
you
them.
get
So of
them.
course, how you want it loved over you. So just like the Igbo proverb that says, the gods behave anyhow, we show them the tree they were carved from. Now tell me. And that's ancestral Igbo thoughts, ancestral Igbo wisdom. It's been there before. I mean, any Igbo person saw any white person. The same thing for the Yorubas. What I just said now is inside one of those Ifa verses, and then you tell me these people who have these thoughts in their head, you tell me they're worshipping idols, they're worshipping those things. No. It's just like a vessel, just like the Christian, they'll pray through Jesus, and the same thing for the Muslims, they'll pray through Muhammad and all of that. So it's just like vessels. They were not idol worshippers. There's another Ifa line that says, "Orisha lo sin, Olodumare loba." It's like what he's saying is that okay, you worship, you respect your idols, but the king is still Olodumare. The king is still God. So these people are not actually idol worshippers. So the problem is there's been a lot of miseducation, and again, it was a deliberate thing by the colonialists for it. It was a deliberate thing. They needed you to forget about your ancestors. So you lose your sense of identity, you lose and when you lose your sense of identity, you lose your sense of direction, because if you don't have a memory of yourself, which is more or less what your ancestors did, how do you want to go around this world? How do you want to move ahead? How do you want to, again, like I said, because religion, people's spirituality and their culture is always intertwined. Like for example, I was born and raised a Muslim, and they gave me Ibrahim. I have a brother called Abdullah. My ancestors don't bear Ibrahim. My ancestors don't bear Abdullah. Arabian ancestors bear those names even before Islam came up. You're Sandra. I mean, you have Isaac, you have John, you have Moses. Our ancestors both don't bear those names. Those are names the Middle Eastern ancestors
The Europeans.
the Europeans had before even the religion came up. So what it did was to separate you from your ancestors. That's why in 2021 there's a thing called Black Lives Matter, because as black people, we are more or less at the bottom of the pyramid. I mean, at the last Euros, 3 black footballers lost penalties. It's just penalty, for God's sake. They lost penalty playing for England. And it sparked a whole lot of racist, events in the UK. So it's a lot of miseducation. And as a group of people, I think we need, if we really, really want to make an impact as black people in this world, we really need to go back to our ancestors. I mean, as I told you off air, I just had this interest of learning about my ancestors last year, and I've been reading about you find out amazing things. You find out that your ancestors actually have far more advanced and progressive wisdom than these people who replaced it with something else for us. So there's a lot of miseducation. Again, I mean, someone who mentioned that we were what's it called? We used to kill twins.
That they would have killed that young boy.
I mean, I'm not going to sit down here and tell you that our ancestors were perfect. They were not, just like other people's ancestors.
Okay.
In Europe, in the early modern era, they had over a decade of witch hunt, which was fully backed by the church. It was fully backed by the church.
You're talking about the Salem trials. Well, even before the Salem trials.
Yeah, there was the Inquisition, then the witch hunt. So I mean, a lot of people, a lot of race have done like barbaric stuff, and I'm not going to say we've not done any, but of course we are going to get there. We were always going to get there, So the reason why we don't actually respect our own, indigenous practices or ancestral religions because we've been really, really miseducated. We've been really miseducated because, like I said, this colonialism was a deliberate thing that came in and replaced. Because again, your ancestors are your memory. If you don't have a memory of yourself, where are you going?
Who are you?
Who are you? You're nothing.
Because that's why you say that locks are bad.
Exactly.
Or anklets are bad. But your
tattoos,
ancestors
or
wore
tattoos
them.
are bad. No,
Yeah.
they're not.
But I don't know, maybe things are changing. I say that because tomorrow is a public holiday in Osun State. The state government declared it to mark a traditional religious festival. I can't pronounce the name in Yoruba, so I'm not going to try. I won't try. It's spelled, and Tunde, you'll help me. It's spelled Isese. How do you pronounce that?
Isheshe.
Isheshe.
Yeah, Isheshe.
So that's the name of the day, and it's been set aside for traditional worshippers in the state. Christians have lots of public holidays. Muslims have lots of public holidays. So Osun State is trying to create some equity.
Osun State is actually one of those states that have been trying to. I remember the governor a few years ago, was it called Aragbeshola, did something like I think he added Ifa to, like, we have IRK, CRK in our school. So I think he added something like Ifa to it so that at least
there's some equity.
I mean, let's be frank with ourselves, Sandra. When you read about when you're reading the Quran or you're reading the Bible, you're reading about Adam, you're reading about Abraham, you're reading about Noah, you're reading about other people's ancestors. That's what you're doing, more or less. You're reading about the Middle Eastern ancestors. You're reading about European ancestors. That's what you're doing. Your ancestors don't bear those names. Your ancestors don't live in those places. So, but you have similar characters, similar wise people. You have them in your, in your culture. If you go back and ask people and actually dig deep, you find out amazing things about your ancestors, and you'll be surprised that you've been miseducated all along.